Some of you have been asking why I'm not covering the Dominion voting machines lawsuit against Fox involving the unproven claims of election fraud in 2020, and it's absolutely a fair question. I believe I should be covering it. It's a major media story, given my role here at Fox. But the company has decided that as part of the organization being sued, I can't talk about it or write about it, at least for now. I strongly disagree with that decision, but as an employee, I have to abide by it. And if that changes, I'll let you know.
Now, I feel bad for Howie. After all, that statement was obviously heavily lawyered, and to still have to refer to the election fraud claims as unproven rather than totally debunked shows a continuing concern about offending some in their audience with the 2020 realities. But the larger point here is that Fox News is shielding its viewers from some incredibly inconvenient truths about their network. They are deliberately ignoring a story that is clearly newsworthy. Just ask Kurtz himself. Now, as we reported previously, the filings by Dominion reveal how Fox News hosts, producers, even executives knew that what some hosts and guests on the network were saying about the election was false. And yet they seemingly decided it was better to allow their audience to hear these untruths rather than risk losing viewers to more extreme outlets. But late yesterday, a transcript of a deposition by Rupert Murdoch himself was released, showing that the media titan was one of those who knew that what some Fox hosts were peddling on the air was nonsense. Murdoch was asked, quote, "You are aware now that Fox did more than simply host these guests and give them a platform, correct?" Murdoch replied, "I think you've shown me some material in support of that. In fact, you are now aware that Fox endorsed at times this false notion of a stolen election." And while Murdoch didn't acknowledge the entire network was at fault, he did say, well, maybe Lou Dobbs, maybe Maria Bartiromo as commentators. Murdoch was later asked to confirm that several of his hosts endorsed the notion of a stolen election, and he said, quote, "Yes, they endorsed." But Fox News didn't share any of that with its viewers. I mean, they haven't shared anything at all about the case, even though at least one of their own reporters publicly says he wants to. Now, you might be thinking, come on, Dan, they're being sued for $1.5 billion. Of course they're not going to let their people talk about the case. But that's just not what other news operations have done when they were sued. New York Times recently won a defamation lawsuit against Sarah Palin. The paper reported on unfavorable developments against them during the case, like when an appellate court reinstated Palin's lawsuit, finding that Palin had enough evidence to at least take the case to trial. Or how about all the outlets which reported on lawsuits filed against them by Nicholas Sandmann for defamation in the wake of his viral encounter with a Native American elder pounding a drum at a demonstration in Washington? CNN and the Washington Post even reported their settlements with the teen. And guess who else used to report in detail on lawsuits that weren't particularly flattering to them? Fox News. Check out that same Howie Kurtz back in 2016 reporting on the sexual harassment lawsuit filed against former Fox chief Roger Ailes.
Ailes remains on the job in the wake of a sexual harassment lawsuit with allegations vehemently denied by Ailes, filed by Gretchen Carlson after her contract as a daytime Fox anchor was not renewed. New York Magazine, citing unnamed sources, reported today that Fox anchor Megyn Kelly told the outside law firm conducting the review that Ailes had sexually harassed her when she was a Fox reporter about a decade ago. Kelly has not address the matter publicly at all.
Now, think about that. They're even presenting allegations reported by some other publication, supposedly made by Megyn Kelly, who was working for Fox News at the time. The point is, they could do it if they wanted to, but it's clear they don't. Why? Is this Fox News more radical? Are they more afraid of some of their more extreme viewers than they used to be? Joining us now is Colby Hall, founding editor of Mediaite.com, also a NewsNation contributor. He's been covering Fox News for well over a decade. Colby, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Were you surprised when you heard that Fox wouldn't allow their reporters to cover the story?
I guess I wasn't really surprised. I mean, I think Fox News has long had a news problem, and this recent episode just puts that in stark relief. As you said, they could cover this if they want, and they're clearly being driven by a team of legal experts on how to phrase this properly. But I think the reasons are clear, and that they have 100 or 1.6 billion reasons why they shouldn't be covering this, because everything that they say could be used in a court of law against them.
Yeah, but thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.